Oh, going live. Here we go. Are we live? All right, guys, what's up? Thank you for clicking on the video. Sorry, I was doing some work. I don't know exactly when it went live. I was trying to get in order. So you're watching Night Drive Live, daily show Monday through Friday. My name is Damian Knight. So we kind of do the news, talk about the current events. I've got some very positive things to talk about. That's the goal of the show, especially in these times. So we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to lead off with what we have on the screen. We're going to talk about a $53 Silverado deal with the particular model shown. That's pretty crazy. And we're going to jump right over to some plant closures, but also some reopened tentative dates. That's going to give us a lot of good signals. We're going to want to look at that kind of stuff. Elon Musk has fought to not close plants, to try and scale this down. And I'm going to tell you why, because he had a lot of incentives this year for Tesla. And then we're going to talk about this baby right here, which is one heck of a rendering. And it is a rendering, but it's got historic value. And we're going to get back into all the things that are GT1 and WEC right here on Night Drive Live. So stick around, guys. John Crisp, what's up? Watch the intro. Forced induction fabricator, engine management tuner, shop owner. I wanted to start a daily show about everything automotive. You're watching Night Drive Live. All right, I might have cut that one a little bit short, guys, but yeah, so we're just going to jump right in, and I'm going to basically talk to everybody. Android, what's up, my man? We're going to just talk briefly about, let me get into the details here. Let me swing this around. Barely got started on time today. Pretty scattered. Obviously lots of things going on. No need to talk about that now, but I'm going to keep this show going Monday through Friday, and so stick with me, guys. Appreciate your support. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. But, so not to get, this is not a negative. We're going to talk about how we're going to get right on through this. And so obviously Ford and General Motors are going to suspend production in North American plants for 2 weeks. Honda and Toyota announced today they're going to temporarily halt some things. So I was looking through the article, just trying to get some indicators. And obviously the one thing that you can count on is the auto industry is just waiting. They're going to want to get these workers back in. So that's the kind of signals I think this is an industry we can really watch, and it's going to be a good indicator for us as to when things are going to kind of return. So most of them, in this case, let's see, more automakers will suspend production for factory employees. Volvo shutting down its U.S. plant from March 26th to April 14th. Toyota has extended its production suspension March 23rd to April 3rd, and Volkswagen is March 21st to March 29th. So everybody is kind of in agreement at this point. It's somewhere in this range of about mid-April, and some states are more aggressive than others, their governors and whatnot. So we're going to really watch the automotive industry. I think it's a great indicator. It's a great industry to kind of tell you. It was the same way in China. As those industries came back online, it was a very good signal that, that they were kind of getting past it. So, good things ahead. Just hunker down, guys. I noticed, car guys are like, they're not watching stuff. It's crazy. I was looking at all the, there's something Google Trends that I look at to see what the trends are for search values and things. And everything car is plummeting. It's like people were like, oh, I'm never going to build a car, buy a car again. I say battle through it, guys. Get online, watch car stuff, plan your next build, think about what you want to buy, keep your goals in place, you know what I mean, and keep a positive mindset. That's what's super important here. And, so don't give up hope. We can still make this year a good one. We just have to keep, just keep on board and just let this thing get behind us and stay positive. So, Musk, obviously, Elon Musk, he had a lot of incentives, and I'm gonna let me get a better screen here. He had a lot of incentives built into his contract. You may or may not have heard, but it was basically, it had to do with overall stock value and certain cost targets and profit targets. And going into the end of 2019, they actually, in the overall sense of the way that they call it gap marketing, they made a loss. But the way that his contract is calculated, they had made about $2.9 billion. billion in profit. And so this year was very critical for Tesla. And Tesla's been hit hard by this. Elon Musk played it down on Twitter. He said this is dumb. And I think, people were kind of attacking him over it, like he's saying that the virus is dumb and reactions are dumb. I think what he was just a very generalized statement that this is just dumb. This sucks. And, I think that Tesla was really on that edge of, big production with the Model 3 in China. Lots going on here in America. They have a lot of targets they want to meet with the Cybertruck and the Roadster. And, this is just one of those companies that didn't need this right now. He was last 2019, their value, their stock value was, kind of volatile, but really climbing way beyond certain projections. And now, it's looking interesting. So he has finally agreed to shut down the plants in the Fremont plant in California and the New York plant. They've reduced the staff from 10,000 to about 2,500. And so, this is not something he's too happy about. Obviously, all the car companies are doing it, so it's a pretty level playing field. But they did say at the end of 2019, Tesla had $6.3 billion in cash. So that's obviously, it's a better place than they would have been in otherwise. So, Lil Unk, what's up, my man? Lil Unk's over there cooking some spaghetti while he's watching the show. Don't let him lie to you. He knows that's my favorite. So we'll see what happens here, guys. But yeah, I did come across an article here about this particular Silverado. It's in California only, but you can always order one and get it shipped. You might not get it immediately. I don't know, but a lot of people buy across state lines. But in this particular scenario, it's a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado with the custom double cab. It's available for $53 a month for 24 months. $4,000 down payment. So very strict lease terms, 10,000 miles, you gotta baby it around and stuff like that, but $53 a month, but there's the 4,000. So $61 a month, you can get a 2-year lease on a 2020 Trax LS or a Chevy Equinox for $74 a month with $2,000 down. So obviously these deals are going to start mounting. These dealerships want to just get some kind of business done. And, so we'll see what happens. If you guys are in the market, throw me a comment. If anybody's buying, I want to know if somebody bought anything. Like, throw me a comment either. If you're watching it live, throw a comment here. But if you're actually watching this after it's recorded, if you're a buyer, if you're out there buying cars, looking for deals, I want to hear about it. I want to know what you're out to buy, because this is a buyer's market. If you're in position, obviously with new cars, this is a buyer's market. And a lot of brands, I think, are just small businesses. They're going to be wanting to sell parts and products, and I really think that they're just to get some cash flow. I manufactured force induction systems and all kind of stuff years ago, and there's just a time to where you realize, look, I may not have a bunch of margin, but I need some cash back in the bank. And so big deals ahead for guys that mod cars, build cars, stuff like that. So just keep your hopes up, guys. Get out there, get on the internet. These are the times you get to sit at your house, plan your next build. Bust out your Hot Wheels track that your kid has, you know what I mean? Build a scale model. I think I'm gonna do a top 10 video what car guys need to be doing, because I tell you what, my friend Jay, and I'm just gonna go brief on this, my friend Jay, who I've known many years, he gave me a small car model many years ago for my birthday. I really kind of like it as the original. You know what I mean? The original, I don't kind of want to get into it because it's vintage in the sense of the type of car it is, but I'm tempted to build it. So think about that, guys. Do a project with your kids, go out in the garage, change something. I don't know, do something car related, take your mind off of it. But let me get into, well, first of all, let me just show you what we're talking about here. I don't know if you're familiar with this car. So this is a Porsche 906, and this is a very interesting vehicle. This was a street legal car that Porsche built in 1966, and they did it so that they can go racing, and that was the rules of the game. It was called Group 4, I believe, if I recall correctly. John Cripps, he's waiting to buy the Cybertruck in 22-23. So yep, lots of people waiting. 500,000 orders they have, pre-orders they have on that. So I think a lot of people are looking forward to that vehicle for sure. I did a couple videos on it. I just want to see one in the street, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, this Porsche 906, very interesting car. And I came across this rendering, and let me kind of skip past this rendering here that this artist did, and it's basically a modern rendition of that vehicle, and it was pretty awesome. I was like, that's pretty sick, because the big thing is before Aero got really, advanced like it is today. If you look at like the McLaren Senna, that is a truly, it's dictated by airflow, and it's not the most beautiful shape. Interestingly, the most aerodynamic shape known to man is a teardrop, and essentially a teardrop type of shape, which is very organic, very flowing. But if you look in modern racing, we especially F1 and things like that, they're manipulating airflow to meet rule series and rule structures, wing widths, and all this stuff. So, I like seeing something like this that still has that old school. There was just this era when race cars just had this beauty to them, and that's what this really is able to capture. And I like organic flowing shapes. I will say that, like, the edgy stuff, even the new C8, very angular, lots of lines and things on it. Like, there's just something that still looks good about an organic flowing shape. And I think that when you look at car design across the broad spectrum, that's what endures. Like, the most beautiful cars in history that most people agree and that never got a timestamp on them were the cars that kind of had these flowing, sexy curves to them and things like that. So, something like this, very cool. But when you look at Cybertruck, when you look at, even think about C4 Corvette in that era, Testarossa, Lamborghini Countach, we're kind of seeing this resurgence, kind of like a revolution of design from that era. And that was very Bertone-esque. It has a timestamp on it. There's no question. Like, at this moment, when you see a car from the 80s, you kind of know it's from the 80s. And now that's getting popular with people in 40s and 50 years old. They kind of want to get back to that. We thought the 80s was cheesy, and now all of a sudden we're like, I don't know, it was like kind of cool. Some things were pretty awesome actually in the 80s, because it was everything was going from analog to digital, and things were kind of cool, 8-bit and all that stuff. So that's where the Cybertruck really taps into. But this is the kind of stuff like this rendering here that I really find pretty awesome. But interestingly, I want to bring up the Revs Institute in Florida. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. If you're ever in Naples, Florida, if you're in that area of Florida, which is kind of the other side, it's the Gulf of Mexico side, southern tip portion of Florida almost, there is something called the Revs Institute. And the Rev Institute, as you can see, this number 71 here, this is a 906. They have a huge Porsche collection, but overall just a massive race car collection. This is an awesome museum. It's a non-profit thing. It's $10 to go through, but they have a huge Porsche collection. I'm just going to whiz through these pictures that I took. And they have one room dedicated to Porsche solely, and I will point out everything in this museum runs. They drive it regularly, they maintain it. So this is the Revs Institute in Florida. I encourage you to look them up. And so this is, they have old Duesenbergs. Obviously, they get into some Fiat, Ferrari race cars. And there's Alfa Romeo here, and there's just so much. And this is a big building, big facility, custom built. It is amazing looking, and it's in Florida, like I said, down by Naples. And then they have a huge area of Grand Prix cars and like early F1. And I'll show you real quickly here, just to give you a little bit of flavor of some of the stuff that they have. But it was just a truly impressive museum. And look at that. I was looking at this. I thought this was so interesting. I had built this is a turbo manifold that I had built. I had a name for it, I don't want to say, but an octopus is kind of what I was thinking of. It's a side-by-side collector. And I was like, look at this. They made a side-by-side collector. This car was like from the 30s or something. But yeah, so tons of stuff. And so the Porsches, they kind of caught my attention talking about the 906. I said, hey, I'm going to share with the people the Revs Institute. And you can see they have some F1 stuff. This was a really cool motor. I love talking about, I'd just love to get into this. I could look at motors like this early development, naturally aspirated, when you get into 60s and even World War II era aircraft engines, and see kind of what they were trying to do right at the forefront. And here, just a 180-degree header, individual throttle bodies, downdraft carbs, going between the cams, intake ports between the cams, between the valves. Very awesome stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I love to see when people were pushing the envelope. But you get surprised when you go down into the basement of this place. They have, like, this Ferrari. I just thought this color was amazing. And I think... so we have an E-Type Jag here. This is a Briggs Cunningham. Briggs Cunningham in the 1960s ended up taking 4 Corvettes to Le Mans. He actually took this car there prior to that, and he built this thing, which is absolutely hideous. It's a Cadillac. It's part of history, though. It's when Aero was experimental and all that kind of stuff, but crazy stuff at the Revs Institute. I'm clicking pictures, and you're like, is he done yet? That's how many cars are at the Revs Institute. So if you ever get a chance, check them out. It's a pretty cool place. But let me tell you a little bit about what this car stems from. So why people got excited about this thing is, so we have something called the Hypercar LMH class category that's going to be starting in the World Endurance Challenge. And so interestingly, in the mid to late 90s, there was an era that was very special, and it led to... Well, let me just touch on this hypercar series first of all. So essentially what's going to happen is that what they want to do is encourage manufacturers to build road-going race cars again, to where they actually have to build it street legal, and it's then going to be the most capable, fastest race car on the track in WEC, which is Le Mans. And so this is a Toyota rendering here, but they have built one of these cars, and Aston Martin, this is the Valkyrie. Unfortunately, they've put things on pause for a few different reasons. This is Glickenhaus. Glickenhaus is out of New York. He's a billionaire, big rich guy. He's actually going to produce road-going versions of these cars. And so the idea is to rekindle an era from the 90s, which was a really amazing era, and not a lot of people are familiar with it. They've probably seen a car or two from it. And so something that would probably come to mind would be like the F1 McLaren. The McLaren F1 was created it was essentially a GT class, Grand Touring, and the idea was that these were street-going cars that were then built for the racetrack, and they made the rules to where there had to be a street-legal version of a GT car. And so they basically pushed these rules, further and further. And I'll tell you where it started. Let me give you an idea of what the spirit of this rule class was, to build a car like this. And so this is like a Nissan Skyline. Now you could tell this is a normal road going car, but it has wide body, it has things like that. This is the one Nissan built, and they built it so that they could meet the requirements, that they had to build a street car that they could then race. Well, these cars, because of the rules, quickly got beat out by things like this, because manufacturers said, oh, we have to only build one. Well, let's go crazier. And so this kind of started to happen. And so Nissan said, well, okay, if you're going to beat us with that, then we're going to build this. And so this was the R390, and it has headlights, turn signals. This is an actual car that was street legal, and through that, then they were able to put a car on the racetrack. And so this evolved, and the battle went on between 1996, 97, 98, at which point Mercedes got involved, and they created which is the CLK GT1, essentially the GT1 version of this car, which then transitioned into the CLR. So this was an awesome era to where these manufacturers were pushing as hard as they could to make the craziest race cars. And so that's what we're trying to see happen again. I hope all this is happening is not going to interrupt that. There's a chance we won't see Le Mans even happen this year. Unfortunately, France is just going through it full bore. And so it'll be unfortunate, but this is what people are open for. So if you're a car fan, if you're into this kind of stuff, if you're at all into racing, just know we're on the brink of something pretty amazing that can happen again like it did in the 90s. So I'm going to finish off talking about these Mercedes, because this car, the follow-up, which was the CLR, was part of a famous accident that some people may or may not have seen, but I saved it here just so you can get an idea of what actually happened with this car. The big rule changes happened because of this. This was the Toyota right here that he is chasing. And basically what happened is this car behind him, he got out of the slipstream, air got under, and look at this flip. This was a big, big deal. This is one of the craziest accidents in racing history, just because it was just purely brought on by aerodynamics. And so it was just a crazy, crazy incident that made that Mercedes and that GT1 car famous. More than ever. But that guy was okay. I mean, you can see he kind of landed on his wheels. So he was not super badly injured. But so, yeah, that's the future. That's potentially what we're looking at. And so, we'll see what happens. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I would definitely like to see this category grow. The interesting part of that is we have another category in this country we race called DPI, and they're going to kind of try to bring those together. So big possibilities with a strong economy. We had some great action going on in racing, and so I'm really hoping that this continues. But guys, if you have not watched the show before, if you've gotten this far, please throw me a sub. This is Monday through Friday I run this show. I also do a bunch of other videos. I do stuff on Corvettes, Overland. I'm going to add all kind of stuff. Right now I have a good opportunity to make a bunch of videos. I can, probably get out and do some things. So this is my only income now also. That's the wonderful highlight of this. My girlfriend is now completely shut down. I actually, unfortunately, in Christmas, my business kind of was whittling down because people were spending big in Christmas. I was doing credit rehabilitation and coaching. And those people said, I don't want credit. I think I want to spend big money in Christmas. So I lost a lot of clients there. And then moving into this, I actually... boy, so it's going to be an interesting year. I thought this was going to be a big one, and now it's looking like it's going to be a challenge. But comfort zones are an easy place to be, but nothing new grows there. And when you're challenged, you're learning something, you're pushing yourself, and so that's what we're going to get into. So just keep moving forward, people. Keep looking ahead. Keep looking at car stuff. Keep your head up, and thank you for watching Night Drive Live. And I'm going to catch you on the next one. I'll be back Monday. Check out some of my other videos, and please give this video a like, folks. It helps and gets me more views. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the next one.